So how's the weather? It's good? Yeah. Well, we're glad you're here. I heard there were people out running in the rain, but there are people that can't get to church in the rain. What? You kidding me? I think we have a great church. I've been coming here since 1992, and I know you didn't think I was that old, but it's kind of a shock to you. But here's how we started coming to this church. We lived in Los Angeles at the time, and we had just kind of gone through this, I don't know, not very good, a church breakup. And we had a few months that we were out there in Los Angeles. We were like, let's not get involved in a church because I had a job out here for a few months. So we were going to be transplanted. It was like, why get involved with the church and then leave and be gone for 5-6 months? So we came out here, and, we were visiting churches. But once again, we're only here for 5 to 6 months in Orlando. We're not going to get involved. But we visited. And the reason we knew about the church was actually from someone we knew in Los Angeles. Get that, someone from Los Angeles recommended First Baptist Church of Windermere. And her husband worked at periods of time with Disney and came from Burbank out here to Orlando. And so she said, I've been to this church. I like it. I think it's great. Try it out. So we were living in Kissimmee, and we came up here. We visited church. It was great. We had a nice time. But again, we're leaving. We're not getting involved. Well, found out that they wanted us to come back for another season of the show that I was working on. So we said, all right, we bought a home. We'll use it as an investment. We might be out here for a little while. Maybe there'll be another year we're out here. Okay, so, maybe we should start looking around at churches. And Barbie at the time was pregnant with our youngest, Carson. So it seemed like a good idea. We should probably find a church. Well, we remembered we had visited about 15 churches in 92, and they're all kinds. The big mega churches to the snake handlers, So we saw it all. And so this seemed like the most normal out of all of it. Not too big, not too small. It's just right. And when we came back, the first person we met, because we had 2 kids at the time, Riley and Brady were with us. So we go over to the children's area, and we meet this little pint-sized fire hydrant of a woman named Gail Hatmaker. How many of you know Gail Hatmaker? Okay. Still known. The legacy still lives with her. Now, I kind of have Gail Hatmaker's job now, and I wouldn't say I do it as well as Gail Hatmaker, but she had her own style. I like to call people that visit the church, say hi, and give them all the options and sort of lay it out for them, communicate with them what we have going on. Gail used physical force to get people to where she wanted them to go. And she actually, and if you have to know Gail Hatmaker, right? She grabbed us, me, by the arm and pulled us from the education building across the gym into 107 right there, which is our special needs class, and says, I have a small group for you. Pushed us in. Shut the door. I think she locked it behind us. And all of a sudden, how did we get here? Why did we let this little woman push us around? So here we are. We're in a small group, not by choice, but by force. And, we're looking around, and, everyone seemed, pretty nice. And actually, there was a couple in there that we knew, that I knew because he worked on the same TV show that I worked on. And so we're like, I didn't know you were a Christian. That's so awkward, isn't it, right? You're a Christian? No, it wasn't like that. I didn't know you were a Christian. I didn't know you were a Christian. Oh, okay. So that was nice. We knew somebody in it. Well, the class went well, and so we went again, and we went again, and we went again, and there was, a lot of great couples in there. And if you remember, like the Winders, the Johnstons, the Canoes, all sorts of people. The Griffiths. Right? I remember the Griffiths were in there. This was the young adult class. And there wasn't really another young adult class that I can remember in the whole church. But it was fun, and it was, they were learning the Bible and all this, and we had never been in an adult class because at the previous church in Los Angeles, I taught the college students. And so they heard, oh, well, you have taught before. Well, we're all going to be out of town for the 4th of July, and there's no one to teach. Would you do it? I was like, wow, I've never taught adults. I taught college students, but college students don't know anything. So I could say stuff that was wrong, and they'd be like, wow, that's really interesting. Adults, I'm thinking they know what's going on. So I was really nervous. I was so prepared for this. I still remember the topic I talked about. It was 4th of July, so I talked about this country and freedom is founded on Christian principles and the whole thing. And my knees were shaking the whole time because I was actually standing in front of other people telling them about the Bible. Well, when it was done, they came up and said, yeah, it was pretty good. We enjoyed it. It's like, wow, okay, great. Once again, they asked me to teach again. Then they asked me to teach again. The next thing you knew, I was in the rotation. Well, as time is going on, and then we had our child Carson. And here we are down in Kissimmee. I mean, we're way down Kissimmee. The rack room shoes on 192, just past the Publix. Okay, we were back in there, far away from this place. But the class brought meals to us. Meals. Drove all the way down there. We were like, wow, this is amazing. We've never seen anything like this. And so I guess out of guilt, we just kept coming to the class, because, they came and brought us meals. I guess we got to start going. But what a great experience it turned into. As the class grew, and I think we were up to like 70 or 80 people in the class, we were in the gym. We had to break into 3 smaller classes, and it was like our own Wednesday night. I mean, I think our Wednesday night attracts about 70 adults. We were doing that on Sunday. But it was a great time. Well, I was putting out like a bulletin for the class, like a brochure, and I would interview somebody from the class, and we had the announcements, and I had all this kind of stuff. We didn't have, internet sites and things like that we could develop, but I was sending out emails as internet started to grow. It was just an amazing time. And Gail was looking at it going, you know what, we better pull him over to our side before he goes rogue on us. And so she said, would you like to be on staff? And so in 1997, I was on staff. All of it because of the involvement that occurred in that small group. As a result of that time, we have developed some amazing friends. And that's what has kept us here, I believe, for 18 years. Yes, it's been a calling. We've been here for the good and bad times, but we've always felt that friendship here with the people, and we said we're not going to leave. And that's what this sermon series is about. The name of the sermon series is How to Have a Great Church. And we're breaking it up into 3 different parts, and the part that I'm covering is the one with great friends. Now, when I try to figure out who my friends are, if I go to Facebook, it says on there at last count, I have 1,016 friends. Really? 1,016? Well, let's break it down who these people are. First of all, there's family, and they have to be my friend, right? I mean, there's nothing they can do about that. Then I have in there sort of people I knew from high school, right? So that's when I lived in Pennsylvania. And that's kind of cool. It's really nice to reconnect with them because so much change has happened in my life. It's great to sort of show them what God has done in my life since then. Then I have the college friends when I went to Georgia. And then it moves on to Los Angeles. And there's people that I met during that time. And then there's people from my professional world, my writing world, the television world. And then I have neighbors, because we've moved a number of times. So I have neighbors and all that are part of it. And then last, I have the people that I've met through church and I've met here in Orlando. And that's what's great about Facebook. I mean, Facebook does a really good job of sort of consolidating all of these different relationships into one sort of way to me to communicate to all of them equally. But the one thing I don't understand about Facebook is this poking thing. Now, I don't know if you should poke your friends. If you went up to somebody in person and went, poke, I think you're in handcuffs heading towards the jail, So I don't know what that part is, but that isn't really a relationship that's occurring there on Facebook. In fact, they're even recognizing that there's different definitions of what a friend is. I don't know if you saw this recently, but if you accept a friend or acknowledge somebody as your friend, they're asking you now, is it an acquaintance or is it a friend? And you're like, ooh, I hadn't thought about that. Are you an acquaintance or friend? And does the other person see that too? And they go, I thought we were friends. Well, I think we're just acquaintances. I don't know. I don't think they do, so I think you're safe in that sense. But friendships are what's so important. And when I talk to people that have come to this church, and I get all the cards and the tear-offs, and we contact everybody the following week, you know, the number one thing I hear from people is, this is such a friendly church. Man, that is so important. It just warms my heart when they say that, because they're saying that when they walk in here, they feel welcome. And that there's a few reasons behind that. And one of them, I think, is just that welcome time. I mean, that welcome time is you don't know how important that welcome time is. Because for one part of someone's week, somebody turned to them and said hi to them face to face, locking eyes with them. And they probably didn't get that throughout the week. The other is, and I'm going to throw out some kudos here to our greeters and our ushers and to our welcome center, who, when they see people, are saying hi, or today had umbrellas, and we're out there getting people from their car to the front door. And that's a great ministry. And so all those things, I think, make people feel that this is a friendly place. And even though it may be a friendly place, the question is, are people making friends here? That's different. The key to the church is relationship. And it's relationship on many levels. First of all, it's their relationship with God, which is primary and most important. That's what brings us here. But it's also the relationship that we have with others. And in addition, it's our relationship that we have with a ministry of some sort, or a mission to our community. And that's our purpose statement, right? It's believe, belong, become. All three of those different aspects: relationship with God, relationship with others, and relationship to a ministry. Well, let's look at that one about a relationship with others and really find out, what is it, do we have friends? How do you make a friend? How do you define a friend? I think there's 3 different levels of friendships. And they all begin with G, okay, to make it easy for you. And I had to really push it with the first one to make the other 2 work, okay? It's your greetable friends. I don't know if it's a word, but we're going to use it as a word here today. Greetable friends. Well, what's a greetable friend? The greetable friends are the, hi, how are you? How's it going? Good to see you. These are people you just sort of throw out a casual, nice sort of welcome to. And you may know the face, may not necessarily know the name. Maybe you got a first name, maybe you don't have a last. Or maybe you have a name that sounds like their name. I mean, when people see me, I don't know what it is. My name is Troy, but they'll say, hey, it's Todd. I don't get that. But, I mean, there's some sort of recognition going on, but they're not quite sure who I am. And you probably know the place that you've seen them before, the context, right? Oh, yeah, you're from the ball fields. Or, yeah, you go to my school, right? Or one of those sort of things. Or I see you at the store. And a lot of this is just a physical relationship in this sense. It's physical in terms of a handshake maybe, or I can recognize your physical features, or maybe I just give you this little greeting. And that's really it. And you may not have any more information than that. Now, I'm a part of an exclusive club. And the club is the Jeep Wrangler Club. Is there anybody here that's a member of the Jeep Wrangler Club? Anybody? Anybody have a Jeep Wrangler? Really? Oh, okay. Yeah, not many of you. Sorry. You know what it takes to be in the Jeep Wrangler Club? You have to have a Jeep Wrangler. And as you're driving down the road, I don't know what it is, and I was shocked when I first got mine, but people wave to you from other Jeep Wranglers. I don't know if they do that with Camrys or Hummers or whatever you're driving around, but the Jeep Wrangler group, we're friends. And we're driving, it's hey, hi. We acknowledge each other. It's not just the awkwardness of having the same color Jeep and style of Jeep. We're like, oh, hi. Like you both, wore the same dress to the prom, But it's just this world. I don't understand it. But we like each other. We're all like, hey, Jeep Wrangler. Yeah, Jeep Wrangler. That's it. It's a great club. And the problem is I'll get in my Odyssey. I'll be driving the Odyssey, and the Jeep Wrangler goes by, and I'm like, hey. And they're like, you're not part of the club. I am a part of the club. It's at home. I got the fan. Oh. It's a surface relationship, okay? All right? There really isn't a lot of meaning. If I die, they're not going to be at my funeral, all the Jeep Wrangler, unless it puts the obituary, he drove a Jeep Wrangler. They may all show up. But that's it. That's all that relationship is based on. Surface, I understand. But those are my greetable friends. Now, the next relationship are the good friends. And this is a wide range of people, okay? People that you would just say, hey, they're my good friend. Now, you could call them acquaintances, or maybe a coworker. Maybe your cubicles butt up against each other. Maybe it's someone in your class from school, right? That might be someone. Maybe a next-door neighbor is a good friend. You know, you've probably in some sense worked together, or you've served together, lived near each other. And it's really a mental relationship. Remember, the other one was just the physical, the hi, I see your face, I know your face, maybe I got some more information. The good friend has more information. So mentally, they know more about you. I know your name, maybe I know where you work, or maybe I know your title at work, or maybe I can remember what classes you were in with me before, that sort of thing. But that's the extent of it. You may or may not know the spouse's name. You may or may not know the kid's name. Probably don't know the kid's name. But for the most part, that's the extent of that relationship. Here's the problem with those, is they're very situational, which means that as long as I'm in the same situation as you, in the same proximity as you, as long as we share this other thing, then we're going to be friends. But the minute that thing goes away, like you get transferred out of town, or I move on to another job, or we graduate from school, it's all going to change. And we're probably not going to see each other as much. I've had two kids go through high school graduation, and oh, the tears of these high schoolers. Oh, I'm losing all my friends. I'm never going to have any friends and all this. And, you know, us older people, we're sitting there going, you know what, you're probably not going to ever talk to them again. I mean, isn't that true? When you're up to my age, I think there's 5 people from my class of 800 that I talk to. Now, on Facebook, I'm getting to know them once again, but still, there's people that say they were in my class. I have no idea still to this day who they are. But the good friends are situational. The other that may sort of be divisive is economical. That you may be friends with them, but you can't share a lot of things because you're not on the same economic level as them. So they may like go out for, you know, weekends and go boating and do all these other sort of things, and you just like, I can't do all that. Hey, we're still friends, right? Yeah, we're still friends, but I'm not sharing a whole lot with you. In fact, the Bible in Proverbs 14:20 says, the poor are shunned even by their neighbors, but the rich have many friends. And I don't know whether that's a positive thing. It almost sounds like they have lots of friends because the friends think I can get something from you because you have a lot of money, or maybe a lot of power. Or maybe if you meet that person who works at Disney and you're going, oh, hey, maybe I can get tickets from them. Sorry, Disney people, that is what we think, and you Universal people too. Sometimes you think, wow, what can I get from this relationship? Not the best reason for a relationship, and probably only puts you in this category of a good friend. Now, the next level is the great friend. And there is nothing that can stop you from talking and seeing and thinking about that other person. There are no barriers to it. You are always contacting them. You are always texting them, whatever it may be, and it doesn't matter where they are. If they've moved out of town, the relationship is just as strong. And they can move and go to another class or another school or go to another job or move out of your neighborhood to another one, and you continue to be great friends with them. This is a heart relationship. Remember, physical, first one, hi, recognize the face. Mental, I know information about you and I still like you. This one is saying, you're in my heart. And for this reason, I know your hurts. I know your thoughts. I know all of the passions that you have, the disappointments you faced in your life. I know all those things, and yet I continue to love you. The definition of this isn't an acquaintance, and it's probably beyond friend. It's closer to brother or sister, not by blood, but only by choice, that I consider someone that close to me. And I don't know what this is, but it's so much easier for women, isn't it? It's so much easier for women to get to that status of a relationship. Sometimes they can get to that in like 5 minutes with somebody, that all of a sudden they're great friends with them. They just meet and the hearts pour out and every thought and everything and struggle just comes out and the Kleenex are flying, right? And the guys over there going, so did you see the game the other day? Yeah, it was a good game. You know, guys just, I don't know, they just like to keep it on that level. There are times they open up their hearts and they sort of get to that. Sure, it's absolutely necessary. We see it biblically too. In fact, you see the first, I'd say, bromance in the Bible between David and Jonathan. I mean, these are two guys that the thing they had in common is they both hated Jonathan's father, Saul, who was the king at the time. You know, David was under persecution because of him and just didn't like what was going on. Jonathan saw the way that his father was persecuting David and turned away from his father and says, I'm turning away from the blood relationship I have, and I'm going to a choice heart relationship with David. We see it in Job to a certain extent. You know, he had three friends, Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar. A fourth, if you want to consider Elihu, who jumped in there as part of Job. Now, I know they gave bad advice, but a lot of guys' friends give bad advice when they need it most. And that's not the point. What I always look at is the first part of it. And it says that while Job was mourning, they sat with him for 7 days. Wow. I mean, that's a friendship. And we attack all the things they said, but look at what they did. They gave up 7 days to sit with their friend who had lost everything. And that's really what, you know, a great friend will do. During hard times, they're right by your side all throughout it. Proverbs 17:17 says, a friend loves at all times, and a brother is born for adversity. That's when you're going to find out who your true friends are. Did they just like you because of the things you had, or economically the things that you could provide for the relationship? Or were they there for you on a deeper level? Ecclesiastes 4 says, if one falls down, his friend can help him up, but pity the man who falls and has no one to help him up. You do not want to be in that situation in your life. You lose everything and you have fallen down and there is nobody to pick you up. Now, a friendship at this level is also very sacrificial. Jesus understood that. In fact, when he was talking to his apostles here in John 15, he says, greater love has no one than this, that he laid down his life for his friends. You are my friends if you do what I command. I no longer call you servants, because a servant does not know his master's business. It's not that we have a work relationship, is what he's saying. He's saying, I've called you friends, for everything that I have learned from my Father, I have made known to you. So a true friend is always revealing all the information that they know about themselves and their lives. And then he finishes it in verse 17. He says, here's my command to you. Love each other. Wow, a command. It's a commandment. Love each other. Find those kind of people in your life and make these kind of friends that you would be willing to lay down your life for. I'm always blown away at what happened in the Garden of Gethsemane. In the Garden of Gethsemane, here's Jesus at his darkest hour, and he goes to the garden with his friends, and he turns to them and said, man, will you just sit with me for a little while? Just for a little while, sit with me. And selfishly, they just collapsed. They just went, oh, we're too tired. We had this great Passover meal. And they fell asleep, and they left him alone. He kept going out to them and said, will you sit with me, please? I mean, he's pleading with them for friendship. Show me that sacrificial friendship, he's saying to them. Join me in my time of greatest need. Well, if God seems to understand the need for that need for a relationship, and he's commanding us, the question is, well, how do we get those friends? How do we get to that level where we can have those kind of friends? Well, it starts with our heart. Remember, the great friends begins with the heart. And so what God does is he challenges us on many levels. And he says, how would you respond in these situations? And by saying that, he's saying, is your heart ready for great friends? And he begins with something called the great compassion. And in the great compassion, you see in Matthew 25, it says, for I was hungry, you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, and you came to visit me. And so by giving us this challenge, he's saying, how do you respond in these situations? These people are strangers. These people are outsiders. Does your heart reach out to them? And 4 things there he's challenging in terms of our thoughts on these people. First of all, that we would be willing to say, whatever you need. Whatever your need is, I'm willing to give it. These people were hungry. They were thirsty. They needed clothes. He said, I'll give it to you. The next thing it says, whoever you are. Apparently, because of the situation they were in, they were either homeless, or they were just a stranger, or they were a prisoner who committed a crime and was sitting in jail. He says, does your heart reach out for those kind of people? The next thing he says is, whatever you look like. Remember, some of these people were naked. I mean, they were ragged. They had been through tough times. And he said, it didn't matter what you looked like. You don't have to look like me and have on the nice slacks and the polo. That's not important. I just see a person that God loves, and I'm going to respond to it. And the last thing is, whatever you've done, whatever sort of sin you've committed in your past, it doesn't matter. And again, they were in situations that they may have caused themselves. The prisoner sitting in jail. Maybe the homeless person made some bad economic decisions and really screwed up. And it says, I don't care. Whatever it is, my heart is ready to reach out for those people. And what Jesus is saying here is, if you can love these outsiders, you can love the insiders. In fact, he challenged their love for people by challenging the way that they treat their enemies. And in Matthew 5:46-47, he says to them, do you just love the people that love you? I mean, that's easy, right? If someone loves you, I mean, you don't do any work, right? They've already somehow seen something in you that's so lovable. They're like, sure, love me, I don't care. But he's going, even the tax collectors are like that. The tax collectors were considered the corrupt workers of the time. They're always loving people. Why? Because they could get something out of it. Then he says, or do you just greet those who greet you, right? He says the pagans do that, the non-religious, the secular, right? That's what the Jeep Wrangler, we're all pagans, just waving to each other, right? It's a surfacey sort of thing. It's easy. You don't have to be spiritual. You don't have to have the Bible in order just to wave to people and be nice to them. He's saying, now, if you can love your enemies, now your heart's in a different place. And so that's a challenge to us in preparation for us to make great friends. And if your heart is compassionate and loving for them, then you can make friends easily by just doing these 4 things. These 4 things. The first one is step out and be a friend. This is saying just be friendly, okay? Be kind. Be considerate. Now, don't walk up to someone and say, will you be my friend? Nobody wants to be a friend with someone that comes up and says that. But if you're just nice to someone over a certain amount of time and, these things sort of develop. The next thing is be available. All right, who knows that, there are times where the two of you get together and maybe a conversation starts up and you begin talking about things that are going on. You've got to be available for that. Maybe you have somewhere else to go, but say, but I'm available for these people that God has put in my path. The next thing is be selfless. Selfless. Think about others. Philippians 2, which I was reading this week, so challenging. Philippians 2:3, it says, do nothing from selfishness or empty conceit, but with humility of mind, let each of you regard one another as more important than himself. Imagine that. You come face to face with someone and your immediate thought is, this person is more important than me. Do not merely look out for your own personal interests, but also for the interests of others. So this is really, this is changing our whole dynamic of relationships. And I'm just going to give you a little advice here. When you have that sort of interaction with another person, don't dominate the conversation. Don't go on and on and on and on and on and on about all the things that's going on in your life, and you get so nervous. You're like, and then you're talking and talking. And the other person's sitting there going, I don't know if I want to be friends with this person. Because all they do is talk about themselves, right? We want to be in relationships with people that not only we're giving, but at the same time, we also understand that sometimes that we're getting something back. So don't dominate, try to relate instead. And the last one is take a risk. Take a risk. It's a risk. It's risky. When you get married, it's risky, right? You're kind of saying, all right, here's my heart. I'm giving it to you. Please don't drop it. Please don't step on it, please. And it's the same thing in a friendship, because you're investing in someone, and you're saying, take care of my heart. Well, where does this happen? Where can you find this place that these sort of relationships are developed? 3 areas in our church. One is small groups, one are in ministries, and the other is on missions. All 3 of those areas, relationships develop like this. If any of you have been on a mission trip together with a group of people, you understand this. There is a bond that occurs in the trenches. When you're in this foreign land and you don't speak the language and they don't speak the language and all these bizarre things are happening to you and you're there side by side with them, you begin to develop some pretty cool relationships. The other is through the ministries, as people are serving side by side on a regular basis. And their hearts are saying, I am selflessly helping other people, and I'm doing it next to other people who are selflessly helping other people. And as a result, your hearts begin to grow closer together. The last one is small groups. And I think it's the most important. You go on mission trips, maybe once a year, twice, depending on what you can afford and what you can free up in your schedule. So it's not ideal all the time. Ministries, of course, we got lots of ministries you can serve. Adult ministries, greeting, children's, teenagers, preschool, surge, all those kind of things, special needs. You can serve side by side. But small groups are really the most available for someone, just to say, hey, can I walk right into that situation? And I love my small group. I mean, we're meeting today, Dempsey's, Doors, John. We're meeting today, and I can't wait. I can't wait. I got to vacuum my house because they're coming over to our house, but it's worth it. I don't know what it is, but when that's on my schedule, I get excited. Because I just know we're going to have fun. The ladies are going to go over here and cry about the things, and we're going to talk about football. And I think the Bucks game's on at 4, so we can probably watch that while we're sitting around eating. But it's so much fun. I make time for it. I'm always scheduling it. And we've been through a lot together. We've been through marriage issues. We've been through parenting, child issues. We've been through economic job losses and all that sort of thing. We were there supporting one another. We went through, with the small group, Barbie's cancer, health issues. I can't imagine going through that without that small group always there by her side. I can't imagine going through it without this church. We've been through a death together when Jeff O'Brien, a friend of ours, died and he had cancer, and we were right there by his side and by Barry's side. We've been through a lot. And when I talk about these things and I think about these things, I think, why don't people want that? This group of people that are always there for you and available and thinking about you and praying for you. Yeah, we have fun and we just talk about dumb stuff, but we sit down and study the Bible. And we have this conversation that goes on, and man, it's so interesting. We're all learning. And then at the end of it, we pray, and we pray for each other. I just went by the McCrae class, and I got a shout out to them at 11 o'clock. And I don't know what the issue was, but I walked in there, and everybody from the group was surrounding one person, and they had their hands on them, and they were praying for them. And you're like, that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. And Max, too, I see you there. You're coming tonight, too. I don't want to leave any of them out. But I hear excuses. I hear excuses all the time. Well, let me address some of them. If these are going through your head right now, I don't know anybody. Okay? Yeah, that's true. But all of them didn't know anybody probably when they came into it, or they just had a greetable relationship, maybe a good friend, I don't know. But for the most part, they were all new too, also when they showed up, so they understand. The other is I don't know the Bible. Well, why did you go to school? Because you already knew about engineering and you wanted a refresher course? Or you already had brain surgery down, but I thought I'll go to school because I need a piece of paper? No, you went to learn about it, and everybody in the group is at the same place. Some may know it more than you, but their heart should be, how can I help you and guide you and disciple you also so that you can go beyond who I am? and what I know. The other one is, what if I don't like the people? Yeah, that's, it's not like there was one class that we went through and somebody pushed us into the class. We don't do that anymore. But we have a variety of different classes at different times. And all we ask is you just go in and try it out. If you don't like it, leave. There's no ceremony that occurs. Do you take these people to be your lawfully wedded small group, to have in the hold for richer and poorer? No, it just develops. You just know it when you go into that class. And the last one is, I don't have time. I don't have time. Well, if you don't have time, then I got to say to you very boldly, you probably can't make friends. If you don't have time for people, it's not important to you. And there are other things that are more important. But I'm saying this is very important, and you need to put it on your schedule. Because I hear when people leave this church, right? They come in the front door. Man, it's a friendly place, and everybody's high and smiling and everything. But then a few years down the road, this is what I hear. Yeah, I don't think anybody really cared that I was there. Huh, really? Friendly church? Nobody cared? And I go, well, how did that happen? Almost in every situation, they weren't in a small group. All they did was show up at church. They just sat in a pew. And when they left, there was no accountability there. And the other thing I want to say to them, and I never say this to them face to face, but I can say it in a group setting. So if I call you and you tell me this, you're going to know what I'm thinking, all right? And I want to say to them, well, did you care for anybody? Did you step out and take the risk and reach out to other people? Or did you just slowly drift away and say, boy, I hope people see me. I hope they see me. That to me sounds a little selfish. It was about your needs. And that's not what the church is about. It's about looking at others without selfishness. If you're not in a small group, I'm going to say you probably have some greetable faces that you know around here. And maybe there's some good friends. But I'm saying you're missing something, and that's the great friends. And Jesus modeled it. I mean, he had these 12 disciples that he gave 3 years to. Every minute of those 3 years, he gave his life to these 3 people. That was his small group. Other people showed up on the outskirts, disciples and followers and looky-loos, and that was fine. But that inner core, that was the important group to him. I also see that when he was feeding the 5,000 and 4,000, he said the most interesting thing to his disciples. He said, break them up into groups of 50 and before we get started. Wow, really? Why? Here's the reason he broke them up. That as soon as the miracle happened, that they started getting the food, they started talking about things. They started sharing things. They started going, where did this food come from? Was it Jesus? Jesus can do that kind of thing? Wow, did you see what he did? I mean, this is like fish, and this is like bread, and they're talking amongst this small group of 50 or so, or to the person next to them. And all of a sudden, you know what? If he can do that, I wonder if he can help me in my life. Yeah, what's going on in your life? Well, I got this thing. Conversation while they're eating. All of a sudden, they're developing relationships. I also see it in Acts 2:42-47, that as soon as the Holy Spirit came upon the church, there was such a change and a transformation occurred in the people that all of a sudden they wanted to start helping each other. And so they broke up into groups that met in homes. So they went from home to home, hanging out, having dinner, doing communion together, praying and saying, what kind of needs do you have? Doing exactly what the Great Compassion said. Here, let me sell everything I have so that I can pay for whatever it is, any bill that you may have in your life. That's a deep level of relationship. What brought them all together? What brings all the small groups together? What brought all the people, the feeding the 5,000, the Acts 2:42 church? What brought all the disciples together? Jesus Christ. That was the thing that brought everyone together. Their goal of knowing him, of knowing the Bible, and then having an opportunity to do what the Bible says and love one another. If they didn't do that, and you're not doing it, you're missing something. You're missing one of the commandments that Jesus gave. The small groups accomplish all of our purposes that we have here at the church. The believe in getting to know and understand who God is. The belong, getting to love others. And then the become, and that is attaching ourselves to a ministry or a mission. And God knows that you need great friends. And I'm saying to you, they are right here at this church. You just got to take the risk and say, I want to make some great friends.